Welcome to The Abundance Journey, the show that helps spiritual entrepreneurs create an abundance mindset that accelerates revenue. Secretly, everything you experience in your life is actually abundance. Once you understand how to activate abundance, you find yourself in flow with your business and clients, so it's easy to create the revenue you want. The Abundance Journey is the only show that activates abundance for you, so you enjoy rapid results in your business. Here's your host, the Abundance Ambassador, Elaine Starling.
Hey, have you ever heard that expression, in one ear and out the other? I'm afraid I'm a little too close to home on that one, especially with all the books that I read, because I read a lot of really fabulous books. And it's so important to me to retain that information and figure out how I can get the information to synthesize between books. Well, that's why I'm absolutely thrilled that we get to chat with Nick Hutchison today. This guy's such a powerhouse for so many reasons. He's the visionary force behind BookThinkers. It's a growing seven-figure marketing agency that seamlessly bridges the worlds of authors and readers. Now get this. In just 7 years, Nick organically built a platform that reaches over 1 million people every single month. And his podcast, BookThinkers, Life-Changing Books, it's a global top 2% show with incredibly captivating interviews with world-class authors. Yes, Nick has helped hundreds of authors expand their reach to hundreds of millions of readers, generating significant revenue growth as a part of their book campaigns. Their book campaigns are amazing. But at the same time, Nick noticed a real problem in the industry. Yeah, I'm not the only one. People don't retain or take action on what they learn from the books they read. That's why Nick wrote a book called Rise of the Reader. I've read it cover to cover. You probably can't see it, but I've turned back a bunch of pages. I've written all over this thing because it's that good. There's so much incredible insight in this book. And I love that he dives into strategies for mastering your reading habits and applying what you learn. Nick, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm feeling the love, and I'm excited for today's conversation, Elaine.
Well, you're so brilliant. I love the way you took personal growth and how we learn and how we think, and you applied it to how we read books. And it's just so innovative. It's so valuable, especially to somebody like me who loves books. So I cannot thank you enough for that.
Yeah, like you highlighted during the introduction, over the years, building the social media communities and the podcast and everything like that, I had started to realize a trend with the questions I was receiving, and they were all around this idea of retaining and implementing more. Because oftentimes these books are positioned and sold as a solution to a problem, or they're going to build a skill set or satisfy a curiosity. And we read the books and we're excited about taking action, and then we fail to implement what we've learned. And so I was like, how can I solve this problem for people? I mean, I'm doing it in my life. These books are changing my health, my wealth, my relationships, my happiness, my relationship to God. Like, why are they working for me but not other people? And so I started to observe my own behavior, almost from a third-party perspective, which is something that I try to do while I'm meditating sometimes, and say, what the heck is Nick Hutchison doing to implement these books, and how can I teach other people how to get more from them? Because I do believe there's a book to solve every single problem that we face as human beings, and a book to help us live up to our potential. And so, yeah, I'm passionate about books, as you could tell.
It's so fun to talk to somebody else who shares my passion, my love for books, because I think it's a very special person who understands the genius that we have access to. And all we have to do is pick it up and go through the pages. And it's just amazing. But I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here. I always like to start with an intention. An intention is what we want to create together and how we want to feel. And we're partnering up with the divine, with the God of your understanding, to create something whole and new through our conversation. Now, this is a really powerful technique because we know that we can prime ourselves for success. Psychologists have looked at the art of priming. If you read questions or read answers that are negative and not supportive, you do much worse on a test than if you read answers that are positive and encouraging. That makes a big difference in your performance. So we want to set ourselves up to win, especially around winning all that great information from a book. Now, I have a very specific structure that I use for doing an intention. I always start with in love and light, because to me, that's acknowledging that the God of your understanding is a present, active participant. It's kind of like, hey, so glad you could join us. Then I state the intention, which is where we want to go. It's almost like a spiritual GPS. And then at the end, I say thank you. And at the very end, I say it is done as a reminder to me that I'm done typing. We set the direction, we set the intention, and now we hold it in silence for 78 seconds. I used to say that that was challenging. Now, because whatever you say is true for you. Now I say it's fun, it's easy, it's a blast. And there's a couple of things I do that really work for me to make it fun, easy, and a blast. I look for 2 or 3 words in the intention that just feel expansive, that feel uplifting and high vibe, high vibration energy. I pick those 2 or 3 words and I just repeat them over and over again in my mind. The second thing I do is I look at anything that's going on in my body, because your body is a great big antenna receiving all kinds of information. And we're after getting the energy to move in the direction of the intention. So you might notice tingles or little ripples of heat or chills or goosebumps. Anything like that is just a sign that we're getting the energy moving in the right direction. Okay, enough preamble. Nick, are you ready to play?
I am ready to play.
All right. In love and light, we hold the intention that we welcome the divine guidance that is present in everything we read and hear. So we automatically recognize our next steps and take joyful action to fulfill our dreams. Thank you, divine. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is done. We give thanks, and so it is. Wow, that was really intense. I don't know about you, but I felt these rays of light going out from everywhere around my body. It was really cool.
We are ready to change some lives. That's a fact.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Nick, I mean, obviously we are already preaching to the converted here because both of us love books so much. Why do you think it's really important for people to understand how they can access the information they read and be able to retrieve it at a moment's notice? Why are you so passionate about helping people capture the brilliance in the books they read?
There are so many different ways that I could answer this question, but I'm feeling called to answer it like this. Life doesn't have to be so tough. There have been around 100 billion people that have lived on this planet, and millions and millions, maybe even tens of millions of them have really figured it out. They lived great lives through trial and error. They figured out how to be holistically successful, healthy, wealthy, happy, great relationships, and spiritually connected. And they've documented the process that they've gone through to figure these things out. And for $20 or less in a few hours of our time, we can access those secrets. The books literally condense decades of their lived experience into days of reading. And it's a shame that we continue to go through life without the answers to the test, trying to figure it out ourselves through trial and error, feeling all of the feels. A lot of times, most of them can be pretty negative and they can pull us down. And so these books, they're like the key. They're the solution, and they're available. And there are so many amazing books out there like yours, Elaine, that you have this amazing experience and you come to all of these amazing understandings and you build a process that can help people live in abundance. And then we choose not to read the books, right? So I think that there is a book to solve every single problem that we face as human beings. And to go back to how I started my answer, life doesn't have to be so hard. We can be happy, healthy, and wealthy, spiritually connected, and have great relationships. And the solution is books.
Yeah.
But only if you implement what you read, does your life start to change, right? So that's kind of the piece to tie it off, is that the book itself isn't the solution, but it's taking action on the information that we've read that is the solution, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I was honing in on joyful action in the intention, because that's really what makes all the difference. And it was so interesting as you were talking about why you're so passionate about this. I saw, I am not a good bowler. I'm really a bad bowler, but my favorite part about bowling is when I can use the bumpers, right? Because when you throw the bowling ball, it can't go in the gutter because they're occupied by the bumpers. And so your ball still makes it down and you take out a few pins. It's kind of like having this structure for understanding how to capture the information in a book that's really meaningful to you and then apply it. Those are the bumpers that you can apply in your life. You can access genius. There's so much that we can take advantage of. Now, I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, and I need to pull us back because the name of the show is The Abundance Journey, and no two people define abundance exactly the same way. Now, Nick, given the work that you do with authors and also with readers, how would you define abundance?
I define abundance as enjoying the passage of time. When you're in the present moment and you don't feel bogged down by feelings of scarcity, financial scarcity, relationship scarcity, spiritual scarcity, health scarcity, and you're just at peace, you're living in the present moment, enjoying the passage of time, that's how I define abundance.
I love that. At peace and fully present.
Yes.
That is so true because, you are complete and whole exactly as you are. It's so interesting to me. I was hanging out with a friend of mine and she was not in a great mood and she started complaining about something. And in the past, I would kind of put a golden bubble around myself to kind of keep the negativity at bay. And I suddenly got this awareness. No. You are whole and complete exactly as you are. She's just doing her thing. Her name happens to be Beth. Beth is just Bething. That's okay. She can Beth all she wants. It has nothing to do with me. It's almost like a breeze going by. And when we can be in that state of awareness, that we welcome whatever's happening in the moment, knowing that there's genius in this moment for us, there are divine blessings for us, we just have to tune into what they are and be willing to receive them. And the problem with blocking out the negativity was I block out everything. I block out the positive and the negative, and I don't want to do that. So I love what you're talking about because, we've got access to unlimited resources through the books that we read, and it's just a matter of us picking them up and taking the time to read them or listen to them. It's wonderful that we've got audiobooks now, too.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I have a mutual friend and mentor in RJ Spina. And I'll tell you what, hanging out with RJ in person, there's almost nobody that exhibits this better than he does. He is fully in the present moment. You can see it in his eyes. He's not concerned about the past. He's not concerned about the future. He's concerned about right now. Actually, he's not concerned about anything. He's living in the present moment fully. And I think sometimes when we read personal development, self-help, whatever you want to call them, style books, we're too much in our past, trying to solve problems or deal with wounds from yesteryear, or we're too much in the future, thinking about the outcome that this book is going to present to us. But it's in the present moment that we can truly digest what we're reading, fully understand it, and then start to take action. Action happens in the present moment. It doesn't happen in the future or in the past. It happens in the present moment. And there's a wonderful Napoleon Hill quote that I love to tell people. It says, "Action is the real measure of intelligence." So reading these books, it's all about the action. It's not about being able to quote things, fun statistics, or sound smart. It's about using the information that you've read to influence your action in the present moment to change your reality so that you can live in abundance like we highlighted.
And I think you bring up a really important point because you respond to everything you're exposed to, and you don't realize that you take on a lot of that energy. Like if you watch a super violent movie before you go to bed, you're going to have nightmares. You're going to be trying to beat off the bad guys yourself in your dreams. And unfortunately, that malaise kind of sticks around, and it takes a while for you to get back into a more positive frame of mind. It truly is garbage in, garbage out, in my opinion. And that's why I think it's so important to surround ourselves with really great books that are uplifting and empowering, that give us great resources and tools. I love the tools that you share in Rise of the Reader, and especially like how we can use Evernote to capture the insights that are so important to us. Could you tell us a little bit about that strategy?
Yes, absolutely. I'll start with a sort of a sad story. When I first started reading personal development books, I was taking rigorous notes inside of a very special notebook, and I was carrying it around with me everywhere I went. So not only was I taking notes on the books that I was reading, but as I had additional reflections or insights or aha moments, or I received a download of some type, I would also put it in this notebook. And then no idea where it went, but it mysteriously disappeared. I lost the physical notebook. And so I then shifted to, okay, I need to find a solution to this problem, because a notebook can be lost. It can be damaged. It can get spilled on. There are a lot of things that can happen to a physical notebook. So I looked for an online notebook. And one of my mentors at the time, he was a podcasting mentor, Tim Ferriss, he was talking about using Evernote to document different things in life. And so I started to use Evernote as a system to document my favorite takeaways from the books that I was reading. And Evernote is great because there's a beautiful desktop version, but you can also access it on your phone. And that meant that no matter what happened, no matter where I was, I could pull up my book notes. And you can even search by different tag functions and things like that. So it's a beautiful way to document what you've read and also eliminate the chance that your notebook disappears, like unfortunately my original notebook did.
Yeah, I can't imagine how devastating that would be. That's really tough. Yeah. And one of the things that I've gotten into the habit of doing is everything that I imagine in the moment. There are times when I can't take notes and where I can't get to my phone to type something in. I'll just tell myself, I'm going to remember this when I'm back in a situation where I can capture this, that this will come back to me again, and I'm just kind of directing the divine to bring it back in 10 minutes when I can actually write it down.
I love that. Our brains are so infinitely powerful. One of my, you could call him a coach, but he's really more of a friend. His name is Kevin Horsley. I wrote about him a little bit inside of Rise of the Reader. He grew up suffering from a few learning disabilities, including dyslexia, and he was kind of told, you can't read properly. And he decided, I want to go learn how to read, but not only read, I want to retain everything that I read. And so he built a bunch of great systems that are documented in his book. It's titled Unlimited Memory. But what's impressive about Kevin is that he won what was called the Everest of Memory Championships, where he was able to memorize the first 10,000 digits of pi. And so a judge would say, what's digit number 2,406? And he would know it like that, which is just so incredibly impressive. And so setting the intention to remember when you're back in a place to remember, that's a great method. That's a strategy. It's not getting lucky. You're setting that intention. You're repeating it to yourself, and repetition also leads to retention. And you're setting like an anchor point in the future. When I'm back in that circumstance, when I'm out of the car and in front of my desktop, I will remember this. And so you're being intentional. And I love that. You're priming yourself as well.
It makes a big difference to do that. It's kind of like my husband and I have this routine. When I can't find this, tell me that I put it there. And then I never have to ask him. I'll never forget where I put it because I told him that's where he put it. And as long as I say it out loud, it works for me. Now, I realize that every time we want our external world to change in some way, we have to be willing to change something inside. What do you notice is the biggest barrier people have to be willing to overcome in order to get so much more out of what they read and be able to retain it?
This will sound a little counterintuitive, but hear me out. We need to slow down. There are so many things that float around social media, like the average CEO reads 52 books in a year. And I think a young person who's unhappy with their life and they step into this world of personal development can be quickly overwhelmed, trying to consume too much information too fast, choosing shorter books just to cross them off the list and move on to the next one, skipping, chapters or passages or speed reading just to get on to the next book because they think the metric that matters, the key performance indicator is the number of books that you've read. But I've come to realize over the years that the slow, nuanced experience of effectively implementing one book is better than the fast, superficial experience of reading 52 or 100 or 200. Now, I know you read a lot. And I also read a lot, but it's sort of our full-time focus. For somebody who's busy, and they're just adding this to their plate that's already full, slow down. Read with intention. So you talked a little bit about priming today's discussion. I think we need to prime each book that we read. Before we start reading the book, we need to set an intention for each book that we read. And I like using the SMART goal format. So that's set a goal that is specific, set a goal that is measurable, set a goal that is attainable. Something that you can actually see yourself taking action on that won't cause you to procrastinate. Set a goal that's realistic, which is sort of the same thing. Or you could say, set a goal that you're emotionally connected to, that's relevant to you. So that, why are you reading this book? To solve what problem? Get really specific about it. And time bound, give yourself a deadline to take action. So when we set an intention, something that's really meaningful to us, and we write it on the inside cover of the book or in the notes section on our phone if we're listening to it, and we reread that intention every time we go through another chapter, we're telling our brains what actions we're looking to implement, what problems we're looking to solve or skills we're looking to build. And only the most important information will reveal itself from the book, those actions that we can grab onto and implement. And so I think that slowing down and becoming really intentional about taking action, what problems are we solving? What skills are we building? I think that's probably the most overlooked piece of this process.
I love that. Thank you for that. It's so funny. I read both business books and fun books, and I get irritated with my fun books when the characters are talking too fast. And I realize that that's actually me. I'm reading too fast. And I need to slow down and actually enjoy it a little bit more. It makes a ton of sense. I really appreciate that. Now, I am learning how to capture the information in the books that I read so that I can access it again and again. And I love what you said also about revisit the information a week later and then a month later. I mean, you have to review information multiple times. We know it takes 12 to 20 times before the human mind will actually latch onto something and keep it in long-term memory. So we need the repetition. What is one step that I could take as someone who's really committed to mastering the brilliance in books? What's one thing you'd recommend we start doing just as a baby step?
Like you said, repetition leads to retention. And so the more often we review something, the stronger that neural connection gets, and we can access it a little bit more easily. And so one step could be, after you're done reading a physical book or listening to an audiobook, rewrite your favorite takeaways just one time. Rewrite them, consolidate them so that they're all in one place. That could be in Evernote. That could be on a physical notepad, like I like to do before I put my notes in Evernote, so that not only are you sort of synthesizing, summarizing, reconnecting to the information, but you're writing it down, whether you're typing or writing it with a pen. That is a form of repetition, and it's a very strong form of repetition. Yeah. Don't just reread your book notes, rewrite your book notes. And I think that that's probably the first step in the process for most people. And a fun little tip for a physical book is if you rewrite your 10 favorite takeaways on the inside, front cover, or maybe the back cover, detail it with a page note or something like that, make a little index, you can reread those notes pretty frequently by just picking up your favorite book, opening up the back cover, the front cover, and rereading them. Try to make that process as frictionless as possible so that you don't dread rereading your notes because there's 200 of them from a book.
I love that. And I love it also because you're right. The more physical modalities we can employ around the information, the more likely we are to absorb it and retain it. Brilliant strategy. Oh my gosh. Nick, you are just beyond generous.
Well, thank you very much. I try to be. You know, I heard a TED Talk years and years and years ago where an author said from stage, you know, how much would you be willing to pay to fly to my house this weekend if Arnold Schwarzenegger was there teaching bodybuilding and Steve Jobs was there teaching innovation and Gandhi was there teaching peace and Mother Teresa was there teaching generosity, and continues to name a bunch of people, both alive and dead. And the audience starts throwing out crazy sums of money, like I'd spend $10,000 or $20,000 or $100,000 to come visit your house for the weekend. And he says, well, I have all their books or books written by them, about them. And it's a heck of a lot less expensive than that. And so these people throughout history, the world's greatest, they were all super generous. They documented, again, their greatest life lessons, and they're available to us for a fraction of the cost of flying out and getting one-on-one coaching. And so that's just why I'm such a big fan of these books and why I try to be so generous with how to use them efficiently to improve our lives.
Well, there's another really generous thing that you do, and it's called your podcast. And I know that this is something that we can all do to tap into the brilliance of different authors that you've discovered. Could you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Sure. It's titled BookThinkers, Life-Changing Books, and each episode features a world-changing nonfiction author, somebody who's writing to improve the world. And we featured all sorts of types of business celebrities and spiritual leaders and everybody in between. And you are going to be a guest on the podcast sometime soon, so everybody check that out as well.
That's going to be so much fun. I cannot wait. And I love your show. It really is revolutionary. And I really appreciate the way you are changing the industry because there is brilliance in books. We are surrounded by mentors, and it's as easy as going to Amazon and getting a Kindle book. You know, it's so easy. So one of the things that we always do here at the Abundance Journey, we love to turn the tables on our guests because we know that when we give is when we receive the most. So Nick, what can we do to serve you?
That's a great question. I haven't prepared a great answer for this yet because I think I'm not the best at receiving, but I am great at giving, at least in this stage in my life. You know, anybody that thinks somebody in their life could use this book, buy a copy for them, buy a Kindle copy for them. What's great about gifting Kindles is you could just put somebody's email in and they receive a copy of the book. And I think the book is 99 cents right now, and I hope to keep it that way for a long time. What can you do for me? You know, just continue to support and show love and be encouraging and remind me that the present moment is where all of this abundance is taking place. And I'm a happy guy.
And follow him on Instagram. I'm going to make sure that all of Nick's contact information is in the show notes, along with a link to his podcast. So definitely follow up with Nick there. And Nick, thank you so much for taking the time today. It is such a pleasure to visit with you.
You are amazing at what you do. And I loved the energy and the intention today. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, stick around because we're going to activate abundance in just a moment. Hi, Hi, it's Elaine Starling, the Abundance Ambassador. And I know since you're listening to this show or watching this show, The Abundance Journey, you really want to experience more abundance in your life. Well, that's why I wrote the book, 5 Steps to Activate Your Abundance. It's available for sale right now from Amazon, from barnesandnoble.com, and many international sellers. And I want you to pick up a copy because I'm really opening the kimono here and sharing all of the information you need to experience abundance in every single aspect of your life. The book's divided into 3 parts. Part 1 is called Meeting the Divine. This is where I share my near-death experience and the conversation I got to have with our higher power during my stroke. In Part 2, Messages from the Divine, I share the best practices that I was given, the secret sauce in how life actually works. And so you understand really why you're here and how you can make the most of your life so you love every single moment. And then in the Part 3 is Partnering with the Divine. That's where I go into each of the 5 steps to activate your abundance and explain exactly why it works so well. So take a moment to pick up a copy. It's available as an ebook, a paperback book, an audiobook, and a video course. So however you like to absorb information, abundance is waiting for you. Isn't Nick amazing? I mean, this guy is making so much happen. His passion, his vision is just incredible. Step 1, gratitude. I'm so grateful that I got to have this conversation with Nick today. Not only did I get a lot of genius out of his book, Rise of the Reader, I got even more insights today. Step 2, acknowledge something you heard that was an aha for you. Now, he does talk about this in his book. It's all about setting the intention. And if anybody has seen my TEDx talk, Abundance is a Choice, I talk about 2 things that change your life and create your abundance. The first one is your intention, what you want to create and how you want to feel about it. The second one is your attention. And guess what? The 5 steps to activate abundance is how you master your attention. So we got the whole shebang right here. So I love that he says to create a custom intention for every single book you read and use a SMART goal so that you've got a specific reason why you're reading the book and what you're hoping to do, be able to do because you read the book. Brilliant strategy. Step 3, appreciate the difference it can make in your life. Well, I know how big a difference intentions make. Because every time I remember to start with an intention, everything changes. It's amazing how the divine helps me focus. Have you ever heard of something called photo reading? I took photo reading years ago, and it's for physical books. And the idea is you actually can commune with the author. So before you read the book, you read the back of the book, you look through the chapter, the table of contents, just to get the description, and you get a feel for the information that you're going to get out of the book. And then you read the book, so to speak, by turning the pages as quickly as possible. You turn the pages like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You're turning the pages that fast and you're softening your gaze and looking at the middle of the page. The idea is your unconscious mind, your subconscious mind remembers everything that you've ever seen or ever heard. And by telling your subconscious mind, these are the questions I have for the author, you will automatically remember the information in the book and you'll be guided to that page and you'll find exactly the paragraph that you needed. That's kind of what Nick was talking about. We have the ability by setting our intention for that book to really reap the harvest in a much deeper, richer way. That's what I appreciate about it. Step 4 is to activate abundance. There are 3 different ways we can activate. The first one is to set time on your calendar to do it. So I'm following Nick's advice and I set time on my calendar 1 hour a week. I may need to up that to put my notes in to Evernote so that I can keep track of all the great insights that I'm receiving from the books that I'm reading. So that's what I'm choosing to do. The next option to activate is to create a little physical trigger, like maybe crossing your fingers or tugging on your earlobe. The third way is to declare what you're going to do. And it helps if you've got an accountability buddy to keep you on the straight and narrow, make sure that you're actually implementing what you said you were going to implement. So by all means, I'm using Evernote. Please hold me accountable and ask me, how are my Evernote notes doing? I really appreciate that. Step 5, celebrate your progress. Do you see how this all blends together? Do you see how you can take anything in your life and turn it into abundance? All you're doing is setting your intention and focusing your attention on what is wanted. And guess what? Everything aligns with your intention. It's a reminder in some way for you to recommit to your intention and notice the blessings that are coming to you, because they are more blessings than you could ever imagine. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful time, and I'll see you next week for the Abundance Journey.
You've been listening to the Abundance Journey Show with Elaine Starling. Visit theabundancejourney.com/podcast gifts to access today's gift, as well as gifts from our other guests. Tune in every week to activate abundance in your life and business. If something resonated with you, please share it with your friends so they can benefit too. Keep activating abundance, and we'll see you in the next episode.